We have some breaking news here on I.C.A.C Unpacked, and it comes to us from our friends in Caught on the in the Act Substack, which is talking about two whistleblowers, one of whom is known to me, who have really put together a very comprehensive letter, sending it to the Congress of the United States, informing them of what I.C.A.C has been doing to not only rack up their charges, but rack up their charges in a very specific and dishonest way. And they have the evidence for it. In fact, one of the whistleblowers has actually been threatened by government officials if he revealed the information that he has compiled. The other one, Bonnie Burkhart, has been sidelined, ignored. I've worked with a little bit as she has sought to follow what was required of her in the law to report any time there was fraud or abuse or violations of law. And of course, that means, for you and me, not for the government. They get to violate the law all the time. But in point of fact, that's not true. They don't. But before I get to that, I want to share with you something that's come out a couple of days before. We have gotten inundated with evidence of all sorts of stings. And when we delve into them, and when the press has delved into them, either at reason.com or through the Appeal or Wired magazine, what they have discovered is that these are not quite what law enforcement says. That is, they're not necessarily predator stings, despite the fact that law enforcement wants you to believe that they captured the down and dirty, the worst of the worst, terrible predators. So I want to share with you some of that information as well. PD, that's Fairfax County Police Department, child exploitation sting. Notice how they're not calling it I.C.A.C anymore. They've renamed themselves the Child Exploitation Unit. That comes on the heels, perhaps, of the problem that I think it was the University of Vermont or New Hampshire got in trouble with. The regulators, I think it was, I'm trying to remember, this goes back a few years ago, where they had developed a database, and apparently they were using phony numbers in their database, and they got caught. Apparently it was too obvious and egregious what they were doing, and they weren't very good at covering it up. So they transferred that to a community college system in Wisconsin that develops most of the training and compiles most of the statistics and so forth for I.C.A.C. So here, 16 suspected online predators. At least they said the word suspected. I originally called them out about that, saying that they're happy to call these folks predators. When I put my internal affairs complaint into the Fairfax County Police Department, that was one of the complaints that I leveled. And it's nice to see that they at least put suspected there. And we know that the patch is feckless and lazy and media whores that they are, that they would copy whatever the press or whatever the police told them. So here's Michael O'Connell doing just that. So here, let's look at the article. It's notable for what their chief, Kevin Davis, says. He says, I love this. I'm looking forward to one day launching one of these investigations and having our detectives inform me and the rest of us that there were no takers. No, you don't. You are a damn liar. Why would you be looking forward to that? That's part of your big bread and butter. Nobody pays attention to the enormous car thefts that are going on around here. That doesn't get a bunch of clicks. It doesn't. Murder gets you a little bit on there, right? But larceny, grand larceny, petty theft, the big things that are plaguing the area, even fentanyl, that only gets you so much. But sex, oh boy, that's your moneymaker right there. No pun intended. So there's no online committing crimes, he would like to hear. There's no one online knowingly and intentionally soliciting sex from young boys and girls. Well, let's define some terms. Young, well, we've heard certain people say 17 was a little girl. So we always have to make sure that we know what we're talking about here. But nevertheless, knowingly and intentionally soliciting sex from underage people, not cool. However, we also know that what police do is they bait and switch. They tell you the age of an adult, and then they talk to you for 100 messages. By the way, they didn't target you because they received a hot tip. They didn't say that they were going after somebody because this person we've been following for years and they've always gotten away from us and they're always, tearing apart these poor children, destroying their lives, ruining families. No, no, no. They pretend like they're an adult. And then they turn around and say, oh, by the way, I'm underage. And folks, we've had people, I mean, I've gone through this with trolls. We have people who've gone to see them with nothing with them at all, nothing to indicate sexual interest or intent. We've got cocky, arrogant guys who said, well, wait a minute, you told me 15 different things. Yeah, I'll meet you and we'll see. And of course, they don't realize that that's part of the police 5-point I.C.A.C program, where if you go to meet the person, it's assumed that you want to have sex with them, even though you never said you were going to do that. Never talked sexually about it, never did anything to do that, right? So this knowingly and intentionally stuff, you really have to look at with a jaundiced eye, because you know it when they tell you all of a sudden. And your response is, wait a minute, why were you pretending for 100 messages to be? What the hell were you doing? I mean, to an adult. And then you switch to a child. Who does that? Why would you do that? If somebody did that to you, folks, and you met somebody on the street and it was dark, wherever, and this happens. This has happened in the past, so don't tell me it never happened before. And then you found out that this person was somebody's daughter in the neighborhood and that she was really 17 and not 23 or 25 like she said. And don't tell me that you can always tell the difference, because you can't. We wouldn't have had these issues if everybody could always tell the difference, okay? And then they go on and they say, as part of their investigation, which is loaded terms for, we're not going to tell you what we did to entice, induce, persuade, and coerce the person. Detectives posing as minors, they don't say first posing as adults, posing on minors, visited these online platforms that predators often use, adult hookup sites where they're looking for adults that they believe are underage. And that is a lie. If they go on the deep and dark web where they're sharing all this CP, sure. But the average and ordinary person on these websites has no evidence, none, that there's a concerted effort to go after underage persons that would not have done it if the police hadn't been there dangling something in front of them too. So why are they doing these virtue tests where they're dangling a child in front of them and saying, hey, you can come on, it's okay, I won't tell anyone? Why are you even doing that? Police are not supposed to be doing that. They're not supposed to be making efforts to commit the crime and to help you commit a crime that you weren't indicating that you wanted to do to begin with. That is absolutely ridiculous, okay? Then they go on and say, they arrived at the meeting locations with things like contraceptives, alcohol, and drugs. Do you know that when the police do their business in this 5-point system, they often will ask their mark to bring something to indicate that they're interested? I won't tell you how I know, but I do know, and I've seen the text messages from many of these operatives out there where they always ask, bring something for my boy or my little girl. You're going to have sex with me, but bring something for my kid. It's hilarious what they do, right? Or they'll say, bring a toy, bring something. And when you show up, you're providing them the evidence that you had no intention of using necessarily for the act, but for the fact that the police asked you to do it, okay? And again, you didn't say, what can I bring? How can I help? That's the sort of thing they do. Then they talk about all the people and where they came from, okay, to do their deeds. And I'm going to post that one too. Let me show you this next one that came out later in the day at 5:14. They want you to know that the counties adjacent to it, Prince William and Manassas, had 16 stings, okay? And they want you to know that. And then they go and basically it's the same essential article that they recycle with a different headline, only this time they put all the names down here. And they mention that one person and all the mugshots. You got to show that, right? Unless they're there are a bunch of cops that they have found. Then they never seem to show all of the mug shots. They'll do it in onesies and twosies, right? So what parents need to know, they should monitor their children's activity, blah, 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 just like one of these people was a former or a prior sex offender. So the sex offender registry didn't stop this person from allegedly offending a second time. Of course, we don't know if he even did it a first time, if he fell for the police scam twice. It makes him a victim twice, maybe makes him foolish, doesn't necessarily, and I'm choosing my words carefully, necessarily make him guilty. Okay. Of course, tell a trusted parent, tell a guidance counselor. These aren't real children. These are police pretending to be children. So this whole nonsense of we're trying to protect children. There are children on the side. We're so concerned about the children, but they never do a sting to uncover kids who might be pretending to be 18, but be 16, 17. They never do that. How come they never do that? That's kind of interesting that they never seem to be terribly concerned about that, are they? Okay. Then you have these other ones that they spend some time. Inappropriate filming of a teen at nearby Potomac Mills Mall. So somebody bent down, supposedly was filming under a teen. I don't know if they want to platform the teen and the person was under them. I don't know if their legs, if they're wearing a dress or something like that, or tight shorts or something. But whatever, here we're going to expend resources running around trying to find somebody. And the reason they're doing it, I suspect, is because this person was a 13-year-old girl. And with a 13-year-old girl, then they can rack up a lot more charges. And, I don't know, folks, my 13-year-old daughter, if I had one, I wouldn't want this guy doing that. But my advice would be careful. And I don't know what the police are going to do spending that amount of time going after that person. I had a guest in my home in March, and the person had a great deal of money with them because they were going to start over here in the United States. They had $3,600, and somebody I trusted and had taken in the community, somebody who is down and out, stole this money while we were both distracted. The police have the evidence of using the debit card. They have my testimony. They have cameras from myself and my neighbors. All that evidence. Can't make an arrest. Not enough to make an arrest. But they're going to expend resources. And I was told we're not going to spend any resources on it. But this one we'll go to town on. So it just goes to show you that if it has the word sex, and Emily Lehman, like Mr. O'Connell, loves doing these particular articles. I have sent to her as well. She has, of course, ignored me also because it's just more fun to report on these things and to say what's going on with that. We have some other ones as well that are pretty amazing. I'm going to share in a different one.